Hey guys, welcome to the Frack and Friend Show. Today's guest is a very special one. He's actually someone who's a creator, a designer, and all-in-one kind of guy. It's Mr. Prom King Collection himself, Mr.
What's
Anthony.
up? What's up, Frack?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Just, staying home on this Sunday fun day and being an adult and getting stuff done.
Hey man, that's the best kinds of days, man. When you can actually relax, stay home, do whatever you want to do, listen to what you want to listen to, watch what you want to watch. It's
There you
a
go.
perfect day, man. First of all, for those who don't know you, I want you to kind of introduce yourself. Let us know your name, let us know what you do, and things like that. So go ahead and give us a little introduction.
Yeah, man. My name is Anthony Gann. I'm from San Francisco, California. I'm a flight attendant, and I own a little t-shirt shop called Prom King Collection. And I am a hardcore boy band, girl group, 90s, 2000s fan.
That is a perfect description, by the way.
Specifically otown and TLC, but everyone's grouped in there together.
When it comes down to your start of the boy band fandom, how did that exactly start for you?
All right, so we're gonna throw it back. It actually started with the girl group. So like my
Hmm.
first probably 90s memory starts with like TLC. So our next door neighbors, they growing up, her name was Crystal. She would watch us and she had MTV on. So she was probably like 6 years older than us. And the Waterfalls video is what got me. And I was like, who are these chicks, man? Like this is
Ooh.
so cool. And we went to Tower Records, went and got the cassette. That was my first cassette.
Ooh.
Yeah, pretty good first one. What was your first cassette?
My first cassette ever was Black and Blue.
Nice.
No
All
joke.
right. Black
I
and Blue. I didn't even know they had that on cassette.
They did. I went to DJ's music store down the street. This is back in the day when we had music stores, right? And they had CDs and they had cassettes. And of course, for some reason, I was always a cassette person. But I also had let's see, Aaron's Party, Come Get It.
That's hilarious.
That was one of my that was before Black and Blue. And I also had, oh, man, it might have been the red. It was something for Backstreet Boys. It might have been
Okay.
Backstreet Boys, the very first one on
Solo.
cassette.
Yeah, first release.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course Millennium. Oh yeah, so basically, my very first cassettes myself was boy bands from the get go.
Right. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first cassette, and I remember we would go on these like family trips, and just listen to the cassettes, and have some cousins that were a couple years older, and they're like, "Tía Tere," tía means auntie in Spanish, and they're like, "Do
Hmm.
you know what they're singing about?" And there was this one interlude where like Chili was like kind of phone sex and talking to this guy, and
Yeah.
then they like flush the toilet, and then it's just like really funny. But she was like, "Oh no, you can't listen to this. You're 8." So she took the cassette and like took out the insides, and I was like devastated. So needless to say, like a week later,
Wow.
we went and got the clean version.
Oh,
Um,
the clean versions, man. Whatever
Clean
happened to
version.
those?
Right. I mean, they're not so fun, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. But yeah, that was my first interaction with like remembering the 90s and like brought me to that. And like it's like when MTV actually played music videos. And so
Mm,
I fell in love with these girls and yeah, they always have like yep, they're right there. Very special
that's it,
place in my
man.
heart. And then during that time it was very like I think this was like 96 and then 94, 95, 96, and then the Spice Girls. They came
Oh,
in full throttle and just like threw a bunch of glitter and like candy on everybody.
yep.
And that's where you would see these other videos and you'd see Backstreet Boys and then you'd see Nsync and you're like, oh wow, this is so cool. And so that's where it all kind
Mm,
of started.
yep. I think everybody's story with boy bands, I know if obviously if you were born in the 80s or, it was either, new edition
New
or,
Edition, New Kids.
new kids, but I know for the 90s, everybody's story always starts either with TLC, Spice Girls, Backstreet, or Hanson.
Yeah,
Those four were the 90s, mid late
staples.
90s. those were the absolute staples. Even though Hanson, I'm sure, doesn't consider themselves a boy band, but that was the three
They were
little
boys in a
kids.
band.
Yeah, that's what I tell people all the time. They're like, "What is your definition?" I'm like, if they can dance, which, you know, we've seen them dance, kind of, but like, you know, sing, dance. Of course, what makes a boy band, girl band? Harmonies.
Yeah.
Harmonies are, you know, everything, and truly a huge thing when it comes down to, you know, even boy bands today. You know, the harmonies are just wonderful.
Yeah, that's where it's at, man. But yeah, so it's actually really funny. So we would like, it was me and my sister that would get babysat by our next door neighbor, and she had three little sisters who were around our age. So like we'd see these music videos, and like it's so funny because this kind of came full circle later on. We would like create like each girl was a Spice Girl. And I was like the director. So we had like the old school like camcorder, and we would do these videos, and I would take it so seriously, and like it was just funny. And then we did like a couple, like they would dress up like dudes and we would be Backstreet Boys. Like I need to find these tapes because I'm sure they're super hilarious.
Man.
And yeah, so like it's like in my soul, you know? So
yeah.
And that was like the beginning of it all. Like those were like the glory days when they would play, you know.
That's kind of how my early days of childhood was, and in a lot of ways was you know, my grandma purchased a camcorder. It's been forever since I said that word. But like a camcorder, and she would record me doing dances and singing and doing you know, All I Have to Give and Larger Than Life. And I was, you know, 8 or 9 years old, you know, 7, 8, 9 years old whenever I started and when I was doing it. And I also took it very serious. I would get very upset when people would start talking while I was singing and dancing, because it took some careful, you know, coordination to do everything.
Like,
and do
dude,
the hat
pay
trick.
attention.
Like,
Right.
dude, watch this. Oh,
so funny.
You know, but I was able to do that at like, you know, 8, 9 years old. I had All I Have to Give pretty packed down, honestly. But you know, man, it's been forever since I thought about that. And I also have tapes. One day I'm gonna have to record it on the show's page, or transfer it to the show's page, and it's really sad.
It's funny though, you know, it's like a memory that like is always there. So
yeah, man, cool. It's definitely, you know, I always tell people, you know, my life has always revolved around boy bands, music, and movies and television. But these 90s bands, you know, they aren't people who come and go. Like a majority bit of them remain today, are still selling out stadiums, still selling out arenas, 50,000, 70,000 people, you know, even 30,000, you know, like not Superdome, the Smoothie King Center, you know, New Orleans, no problem, you know, sold out shows, just incredible. And also, let's not, you know, and we'll talk about this next, is the shows themselves are unlike anything that you and I can go see of today's people, you know. And so that brings us to this point, was, what was your very first concert?
Yo, this is like a pretty heavy hitter one. My first concert was the Spice Girls.
Dude, what year?
Yeah, dude. So this was when did Ginger quit the Spice Girls? Was this 98?
Oh, that was, I think, 98. Yep.
Wow. Yeah, and like I remember I cried. It was like MTV News with like Kurt, what was his name? It wasn't David Holmes, it was the older guy. And he comes on and like introduces it, like the story, and so we were a little sad because it was just the four at the time. But yeah, that was the first concert. Pretty cool.
Wow. And do you remember everything pretty much, or?
Yeah, man, like it was just this like huge production, and I think at the time Victoria was pregnant. With David Beckham's their first child. But no one knew. I mean, and she's like tiny. Yeah, it was a secret. But yeah, that was a pretty awesome concert. We went with the girls from the video that we would make, and so that was really cool. Like, you know, 9, 10-year-olds going to go see their full circle.
Yeah.
Their favorite girl group. So that was the first concert. Yeah.
That's really incredible, man.
Concert might have been like a a jingle ball. So it was like Nsync, um,
Man.
98, Faith Hill. Yeah, it was a good one.
Wow. So you know, as a child, you were able to see all these people that I spent my entire life wishing I would see.
Like watching them on TRL.
I mean, seriously. Oh man, which we'll talk about some TRL because man, we have to throw it back to those days. But like when it comes down to concerts, my very first true concert that wasn't at some kind of water park would be the New Kids on the Block main event with Nelly and our girls TLC. Like,
Wow,
and
amazing.
when
You're
I
a little
tell
late. You're a
you,
little late to the party.
I was. This was when I was. Let's see. I was.
Because you lived a little further away from the main city, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like 20. See, I live about an hour from New Orleans, so not
Okay.
everybody comes to New Orleans, or
Right.
anywhere near it. But, but now something's changed. Everyone comes, you know, some area nearby. But I remember going to see Nelly, TLC, and New Kids on the Block. The main
I went to
event.
that one.
That was, dude. Like I remember, I was like section 311, row 1. So we were like this and able to look down and see them. And what a first concert. That's what really bit me to say, okay, I have to do this like every week.
Right.
But
Like,
that was
it's in
what
your blood.
it really is. It really is.
I think that might have been like 2016, maybe,
I think so.
or 15. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you know, my girlfriend and I got together not that long after. It really wasn't. It was like it was like 6 years ago, and she and I have been to, you know, I'd say hundreds of concerts, like insane amount. You know, I've gone to a few solo, but she and I together have been to everything.
That's awesome. I think that's the cool thing about music is like being able to share it with somebody. Like, hey, come see
Yeah.
like my favorite band, or let's go check out yours.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I've done that so many times with otown. Like, you know, as a flight attendant, I'll bid these layovers to go. You know, the traveling townies will go and buy
To
tickets.
every
and, like,
single one of them.
you know, I was like, you guys have jobs. You guys are,
Yeah.
are rich because,
Yeah.
you know, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't like fortunate enough to have this job. But yeah,
Yeah.
you know, I'll drag my coworkers along and they're like, oh, O-Town? And I'm like, they're still a band, they're still a thing. And I'm like, dude, you got to come with me. And like,
Ooh.
I already bought you a ticket. They're like, oh, all right. You know, we'll have a couple of drinks before. And they're like,
Yeah.
the show will be done. They're like, dude, this was so good. And I'm like, I mean, do you want to meet them? Let's go get a shirt. And then, then they become fans. So I probably dragged about like 12 different friends from work to come along. Ex-boyfriends, my sister.
I have never dragged anyone to I don't think to any boy band concert yet. I've tried numerous times, but even like O-Town. Now the good thing about like even like the Backstreet Boys DNA, it just started like yesterday or Friday.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm a little less motivated. Now I've seen the DNA tour twice. I was in DNA Circle, and I was also like row 10 for the floor for those dates.
Did you go see the Vegas one?
The one that recently just happened, the second residency?
The first one.
Yes. So let's throw it back to that, because that is an important day or week to remember. I remember a friend on the Backstreet Boy group named Jennifer wasn't able to go, and she was like, hey, you know, I'll sell you 2 pit tickets. You know, my husband he doesn't want to sit with a bunch of women or stand in a bunch, you know, in a circle and everything with a bunch of women, and
he
just
thought it was going to be like a mosh pit, like a you know, Papa Roach, Limp Bizkit.
Yeah. And then like, so she was like, you know, I'm going to actually buy some of the seats, and she's like, you can have them. I think they were like $100 a piece. She let me have them for. And I didn't even tell my girlfriend, like, you know, we were sleeping or she was sleeping. And I went ahead and bought the flights. I bought everything. And I said, hey, we're going to see Backstreet in about 2 months. And that was, by the way, my very first Backstreet Boys experience and concert.
Dude, that's an iconic experience there. Like, that show was probably one of the top shows I've been to.
I would absolutely agree. And also, it was the funniest thing ever because all night I had, a bunch of girls all around me, obviously, angry because I'm high-fiving and fist bumping. There's a picture of me and Howie doing this.
Oh, that's
and you could
awesome.
see me like just reaching out, and he's like, dude,
No, yeah,
I
they
mean,
love it because we
iconic.
stand out, and they're like, "Hey,
Hey, I know you. I know Frack. Which,
like,
that's what I get called everywhere I go now when it comes
I love
down
it."
to concerts,
Is Frack Brian or Nick?
So Frick was Brian or is Brian, and
And
Frack
Frack
is
is
Nick.
Nick.
I was
Okay.
always able to imitate Nick really well, people said. And of course, Nick was always my favorite, along with Brian, along with Kevin, AJ, and Howie as well. But like,
I was a
I always,
Howie. Howie
oh, come
Nick.
on, man. I always resonated more with Nick. Like I was able to like do his whiny voice, and people just used to always call me as a kid, Nick Carter.
I
Oh,
love it.
look at Nick. And I used to, in the video we were just talking about, at one point I'm like, I'm Nick, I'm Nick, and just,
Hey, there you go.
yeah, man.
I'm just shocked that he never, during that time, like popped off the way like Justin did or like, Beyonce did. I was shocked.
Me
But
too, because I personally loved his albums, especially I'm Taking Off.
great
Those
one.
songs were bangers after bangers after bangers. My first Nick Carter experience before Backstreet was for his All American tour. And
Oh,
that
awesome.
that was, I think, like a year before the Vegas residency.
Nice.
And I was like front row and second row for that, just moving out and about. And
Such a raw talent and like the whole
yeah.
guitar, like, yeah.
And like, he's really, and I got to meet him before because everybody was waiting at the House of Blues like alley entrance, and I was waiting by his tour bus with just one other person. So he would come in and out and everything, and then he'd come when he was leaving or when he was going, he'd come and talk to us. And so I have a picture of me and Nick, which is really, really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, look, boy bands, and this brings us to the next point, but like, boy bands in general have just been a huge part of my life, and girl bands too. But this whole thing has just been a huge, part of my life in so many ways, and their music has got me through so much in my life. Continue getting me through things that I'm going through.
Oh, for sure, man. Like, I literally know, or think I know, I'd have to have an agreement with like my future husband. Like, we're gonna have this 98 Degrees and our Nick Lachey song as our song, So I get you.
Is it like, I Do?
No, man. And it's because it's a song that he wrote for Jessica, and it's called This I Swear.
Yes.
And I think it was a soundtrack to their reality show or the opening
credits.
Yeah.
It was.
And I don't want to jinx my future marriage, but it's just such a beautiful song. And like,
it's just one demand.
These artists are huge like soundtracks to our lives, essentially.
Yeah.
And so being able to go to these throwback concerts and like really cool events or like ensemble casts or groups where you had like, the Nelly, the New Kids, the TLC, it's so cool. And it's so cool to see them do our old stuff. Cause I think I've heard you say before, like, music nowadays is not the same how it was. Like these people they're kind of like you hear the same thing with the same person rotated, and it's great and it sells, but it's not what we had in 99 to like 2008 7 is kind of where it kind of started fading.
That's really what I always say too, is that era of 2008 was where, really the introduction of autotune, like incorrectly being used. Autotune has been around since the 50s, but like incorrectly, the T-Pain effect, right? That 2007, 2008 era was the era where everything started changing with rap, country, everything had that and that's all good and all. Don't get me wrong. Autotune used correctly sounds awesome. Even like Cher, Believe, that song still today. I'm still like, wow, it still gets me. But I don't know, man. Even like just saying the music today, I always tell people, and I'm hoping one day it changes, but recently I was told to turn on the radio because I've only used Spotify. From my phone, I have 7,000 songs. So what do I need a radio for?
Right.
And a couple weeks ago, I took that challenge. It lasted about 6 blocks. But
we're literally like the same person, dude. I feel you.
It's really, really depressing though, because what I heard was not utter trash, nothing but utter trash and disappointment. And the lyrics, the music, the reason why I stopped listening to the radio was because I couldn't recognize who was singing anymore because everybody sounded the same.
Right.
But like in the recent years, I did discover, there's great music everywhere, right? Obviously, like, especially like rap. I don't listen to rap a lot, but every time Eminem comes out with a song, I'm like, that's a banger. That's fantastic. Every single song. But when it comes down to music, nothing resonates with me today the way it did before.
Hey, I totally get it, man. I was working with this girl not too long ago, and she's like, you're stuck in the 90s, dude. And she's like a younger kid. She's like 23 years old. I was like, 2000s. And she's like, okay. But yeah, it's just a different kind of music, and it's not bad. It's just not amazing and great the way that, we had it. And so that's why I'm so thankful that, like, otown, TLC, Backstreet Boys, they come out with, new versions of what, it's still them, but current. And you could still, it has that twang still of like back in the day, but and you spin on it, and that's all we can ask for fans is to have this great collection of music to go back to. I mean, we have the old stuff, and then we have the new twist on it. So,
which I'm sure you remember this, but the Backstreet Boys came out with "I Want It That Way" reimagined version about what was it, like 2.5 years ago, and what a banger. Like, what, I don't know.
Yeah.
So you got to hear it. Like, it was not much different.
Right.
But it really showcased these guys 25 plus years later still sound the same.
So cool. Yeah.
So
dope.
And of course the most important thing, harmonies. And I'm sure you remember Time by the Backstreet Boys. There's a part where Nick says, I remember when we were singing on the drop of a dime. That kind of stuff doesn't happen anymore. It
really doesn't.
Yeah. Remember, like, you would see them at on a red carpet premiere for something, and they're like, singing "All I Have to Give" or "As Long as You Love Me" or different things. But like, that's one thing that I wish we as people can bring back, is showcasing the talent, at the drop of a dime. Hey, can you give us a little song? Sure. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. It's different times, and people don't know what they've missed out on. Yeah. And that's what I love about like going to like otown for their VIPs. They do this. They do like, lately they've done more so like sound check, but in the beginning towards middle era, and I'm sure they'll bring it back because they always change stuff up to keep it cool. But they'll do like acoustic versions of like their songs that we don't know as well, or album B-side songs. And it's just so cool to see that happen, because we don't get to see that.
No, and it's interesting too, like, because my very first otown concert was in Houston, and I got to see, it wasn't the Pop 2K tour, it was actually the just otown and LFO, no one else. So I got kind of like a full show, and I was in absolute awe of everything when it comes down to just how they performed. Their small setup was better than most gigantic, productions I've ever seen in my life, and their live harmonies was like, especially when they did like Skydive. I remember that one.
Such a raw live song that they do.
Super, super raw. And the whole time I was just like, this is incredible. This is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, it was just an eye-opening. It made me appreciate these smaller shows and give me a little distaste in even the bigger production of shows, you know?
So yeah, so I'm gonna take back what I said earlier, that the DNA was one of the best shows. Otown really puts on one of the greatest live shows that I've seen, and it's funny because, like I
Yeah,
said, I'll drag my friends and coworkers to these shows, and they're like, "This took me by surprise," and I'm going on Apple Music and getting this album. Like, that's how, you know, and people don't really do that anymore. So it just was really
man.
cool to be able to share that experience with someone else, and you know, I mean, they're so iconic in their way, so
I mean,
appreciate their live shows.
you know, I have to agree, and that's what I kind of said as soon as I saw it, and days later, months later, a year later, almost now, the O-Town show was definitely one of the greatest. And I've been to so many, I've seen some of the greatest people in the world, man. I've seen them, and I love them. I love them. I really did. But, you know, one thing was I went by myself. You know, I knew I was going to be okay because, you know, I started making friends with townies once we had Trevor on, and then I think we had Brad first, then Trevor. And then 2 weeks later, I was going to see the show. So I had made friends with different townies, and they're like, you know, you won't be alone, and we'll hang out. And what's funny is, like, you know, I got there, and everyone's like, Frack? You know, are you from the freaking Frack show? And so, like, you know, within the first 15 minutes of being there, I made friends with everybody in the whole room.
Hey man, the
And
townies these girls are great.
it was incredible, man. Like,
It's a little
truly,
intimidating
truly
at first
remarkable.
because you're like, I don't know you. Hi, how are you? And then yeah, which
I'm
is
so
very
used
sweet.
to it. I'm not a, what do you call it? The extrovert. Like, I, oh no, maybe I am, but I love people. I love a crowd. I love performing and singing in front of, you know, I don't care, like 100 people, 300 people, it don't matter. But I do love meeting people, which is why this podcast works so well, because no matter who is coming on, whether it's a regular person or this big celebrity or an unknown even, like, I just love, you know, being able to talk to people and getting their stories and just
Yes,
sharing,
sir. It's
you
kind of
know.
like a newfound, how do I say, message boards from like the 90s, 2000s, but like in a plethora, or like, you know,
Definitely,
you
definitely.
can, yeah,
It's just,
unleash your,
you can just be you, man. You know, I tell
yeah,
people all the time, like, you know, I think the boy band community can be toxic in a lot of ways. It really can be, especially online with keyboard warriors.
man,
But
these Twitter thugs, Twitter fingers.
whew, I mean, it's kind of scary, you know, but like, I just stay out of all that. But
For sure.
but I do like, you know, being able to communicate with people and have people on who, and just listen to their stories about how they came about with their journey with Backstreet, and you know, as a kid, or, you know, their
Yeah,
discovery with music. And it's just, I don't know, man, it's just really, really cool, because I always tell people everyone always has a story, everyone has a beginning, and everyone has a present. It's not the end, but
right.
everyone has a present that they're currently in. And it's just cool, like, getting to hear people's stories, because no story is ever the same.
Yeah,
You
totally.
know, no story is the same at all. But
Right.
it's just, I don't know, man. I really just enjoy doing this, and like I said, it's the
Super
most
fun.
interesting thing. Yeah, it's just interesting hearing, like, even for you, like, which I do want to talk about our shirts. Like, you were very, very kind enough to send this incredible, I don't know, fitting, absolute perfection every way kind of
Thank you.
shirt. But I
Yeah,
want to talk
man.
about this. What was the idea behind this, man?
All right, so I started a pumpkin collection out in 2015, and I revived it in 2020, 2021, to make a little bit of money for social injustice. And
Mm,
it's basically a very tongue-in-cheek, fun, in-your-face statement piece, silly t-shirt line. And I would make shirts going on vacations, and people would be like, "Hey, where'd you get that? A cool shirt." And
Wow.
I would just like, oh, it was a gift, and my friends would be like, why didn't you tell them you made it? I was like, yeah, then people want you to send it to them, or they want it, and like it's too much. And so, yeah, one day I just decided to do it, and it kind of sprung off of like a joke from high school. Like, long story short, I was like a nerd, and then I dated a girl who was cool, whatever cool meant back then. And then senior year prom, and I was crying or tear. My ex-boyfriend who took one of the girls, and I went with the other girl, was like, why are you crying? And I was like, I wanted to be prom king. And 17 years
That's
old, little
amazing.
brat. Yeah. So then like 10 years
Wow.
later, a friend of mine made a shirt of me with the cartoon and gave it to me, and it said prom king. And I was like, stop. And then she goes, here, let me tell you guys this story. It's so ridiculous. And then, yeah, that's how we got the name.
Whoa.
And so the second time around, coming back to last year or 2 years, a year and a half ago, when I redid this, Save the Boy Bands, kind of, I wanted to make a cool shirt, kind of like where the townies and the boy band fans, like, honor an era and, fun time in our lives. And
Yeah.
remember, we would have Save the Music programs back in the
Yes.
day. And like, I remember Backstreet Boys and like, I think Britney, a handful of those artists, like, would support it. And I was like, how about Save the Boy Bands? Like, how cool would that be? So
I
yeah,
think it's incredible. I mean,
it's
first of all,
it's been
dude,
a little bit of a hit.
the design is incredible. It's very, I love the lettering. I really, really do. And I
Yeah,
think it's important, by the way, for the boy bands to forever remain with us, because where would we be in our life?
totally.
Can you even think about that? Where would we be without, let's say, okay, for my biggest
You
influence,
understand me, man. You
BSB.
understand me.
I mean, BSB was my, almost everything as a child. Even today, just they're such a huge part of me. They've helped mold and shape me in a lot of ways. And so where would I be without the Backstreet Boys?
Totally. I get it, man. Like, not everybody gets this, and not everybody understands the passion of, that we have for boy bands and girl groups in this era. And so,
Yeah.
I wanted to pay a little homage to these gentlemen and to these, great, acts that we were able to admire and, bring back a little nostalgia. So I try to keep it funky and fun, and
Yeah.
So I appreciate you. Thank you for your kind words.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I really, I'll tell you, like, anyone who doesn't own this shirt, they need to, because like I have a hard time finding shirts like that I like the fitting of.
Right.
But when it comes down to like yours, it just fits perfectly.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I wore it to an otown show, and I brought them I brought them this shirt, and they're like, hey, before I told them that I had it for them, they're like, dude, that shirt. And I was like, oh, I brought you guys some. And so I was
Cool,
so
man.
lucky to like have Eric Michael. He wore it. I first saw it in a TikTok, and this is when they filmed the very boy band Christmas. And
Come on, man.
Chris Kirkpatrick and Joey did this like best friends Disney throwback from like a show back then. And
Yeah.
Eric pops out in the middle at the end and goes, and he's wearing it. And I was like, bro, no way.
Whoa, that's
then,
incredible.
Yeah, and then he ended up wearing it in like a on the ABC commercial preview. So I was like, next time I saw him, I was like, dude, that's so cool. I'm like, if I never sold another shirt again, like that was enough. And Trevor's worn a couple. I'll just reach out to people through DM, and Latavia from Destiny's Child, she's worn it.
That's cool, man.
Friends with a couple of Danity Kane girls, so they posted it on their thing. So it just, for me, it's just cool just to, see everyone support each other. We support them, and it just comes full circle.
Definitely, man. I mean, it's and that's what it's all about, man. It's just, supporting each other in every way. And so why don't you tell people where they can find you? Because I do want people to find these shirts.
Yeah. So my Instagram handle is @PromKingCollection. All the links to the Etsy store is on there. My personal handle is @FlaccoAnthony. And yeah, let's be friends.
That's what I tell people too. You want to be my friend?
Totes.
But man, look, it's been an incredible episode. I do want to invite you to come on quite a few times with me solo, and
we have so much more to cover.
We really, really do, man. And I feel like it's one episode is not enough. Maybe even 10 episodes wouldn't be enough. But, you know, I just want to thank you so much, Anthony, for coming on the show. And this is actually probably just going to be released today as a surprise episode.
Awesome. Yeah,
But
we have a lot more to cover, and I can't wait to be back. Thank you for having me. This has been very fun.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate the fun times. Appreciate throwing it back with you, dude, because, like, you know, it's so hard, and I'm sure you feel the same way. It's hard to throw back to, you know, the good days, right? You know, with other people, because everyone's good days are different, but, you know, ours align perfectly.
Totally. And thank you for wearing the shirt, dude. Like, we did not call each other. We came up and showed up as twinsies, man.
We were like, hey, man, look, you know, so this works perfect. But
we're actually starting our own boy band, guys. This is actually our announcement. We're recruiting a couple more guys, so
I'd say 2 more at least.
2 more at least, yeah.
And we might be called you know, PKC, Prom King Collection, dude. It's in the works.
Town, something. We'll figure it out.
We'll talk to Otown and make sure that's okay.
Yeah, they're gonna you know, sponsor us. We're gonna be opening for them soon.
That's true. Look for us.
Look for us.
Well,
all right,
Anthony,
man.
Good to see you, buddy. And we'll talk soon, man. Thanks so much for listening and watching, guys. And we'll see y'all later.